Rivera.
So recently, like in the case of Venezuela and Ukraine to some degree, we've been seeing nonviolent movements and counter movements.
Yeah.
Again, like you were just saying, they're not always aligned with progressive values, depending on that. What can you tell us about the dynamics around nonviolent movements facing nonviolent counter movements, or the use of nonviolent tactics as a countering measure?
Yeah, so the question was about what we can say about counter movements or the use of nonviolent action as a counter mobilization technique to basically contain or contest an active nonviolent movement. Honestly, there's not a lot done on this empirically yet, and I'm hoping one or more of my PhD students is going to make a thesis out of this topic, actually. And if they don't, or even if they do, you guys should also do that. All of you who are looking for thesis topics, you should do that. And you know, there's a lot that's done on the revolution, counter-revolution literature, but none of it distinguishes tactics. So most of what's been written about revolution up until this time has not differentiated between nonviolent and violent revolutions. So what we know is that it's very typical for revolutions to face counter-revolutions. I think it's more typical when it's violent. That's a hypothesis, because it's life and death for the people who've just been deposed. And if they don't fight back, they're going to get their heads chopped off. That's the reality. So basically, there's a much higher incentive for people who've been deposed through bloody revolution to engage in a counter-revolution. For nonviolent campaigns, it appears now that for whatever reason, in several countries, this is the way that they sort their political life out. So in Thailand, in Venezuela, to some extent in Nepal, to some extent in the Philippines, there's such lack of trust in the power of the institutions to resolve the conflict within the society that they take to the streets instead, right? And that is where political deals are made and broken. And you know, there's some people who think that's wonderful. That if we live in a world now where people are taking to the streets and using nonviolent action to sort out political life, then we've come quite a long way. There are other people that suggest that this is probably not a good thing, that because we're not talking about pacifism here, we're not talking about people who are doing this nonviolent action because they actually love one another, but because they think that they can take power away from the other and potentially punish them, and there's no kind of philosophical commitment to nonviolence, that this is actually really dangerous for these societies and that it could end up really polarizing them in an irreparable way and lead down the path to civil war. Neither of these have been empirically tested. So I think somebody should do it.